Welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the conservative voice of liberty in the Central Valley. I'm here today with John. How you doing, John?
Good, Aaron. How are you?
Good, thanks. Pat and Matthew are out with personal business this week, so it's just him and I, and we're going to be discussing representation in California. So I know that there's a lot of things we know already as far as representation goes, that when we discuss representation, the assembly were represented by about 500,000 people are represented by every 80 or by each assembly person. In the Senate, that goes all the way up to about 1 million people per each senator. So as you can see, the out of balance representation is just that. With 40 million people, how can you possibly get any representation? But John has some ideas that he'd like to discuss with us today. And John, would you like to touch on something to start out with?
Well, we have to realize that most of the people listening to our program are familiar with State of Jefferson movement, New California movements, Citizens for Fair Representation lawsuits. Most of our listeners are very familiar with these things. So we have to take into consideration that some myths may have been perpetrated. Some people may believe things that just aren't the case. They may understand that our votes have been diluted, and that this is by fault of our state legislature or our state governors, current, future, past. When in actuality, we the electors, we the voters have a role to play in that dilution of vote. That there are constitutional means in which we can come together as voters in the state of California and insist our voice be heard. Those are ballot initiatives. We have ballot initiatives for laws, simple as, you got to stop the crosswalk. If you don't, we're going to raise the fine to this. And anywhere up to amending our state constitution. The people have the power to do that. One thing that bothers me is that I don't believe at this point that any of these movements have come together and tried a ballot initiative. Are you familiar with any?
None that I've ever heard of, but I understand it's a pretty basic process.
Well, it actually is. I have the copy of the California Constitution in front of me. Article 2, Section 8, Clause B states, an initiative measure may be proposed by presenting to the Secretary of State a petition that sets forth the text of the proposed statute or amendment to the Constitution and is certified to have been signed by electors equal in number to 5% in the case of a statute and 8% in the case of an amendment to the Constitution of the votes for all candidates for governor at the last gubernatorial election. At this point, to satisfy that article, section, and clause, and to be able to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot would take 997,139 signatures of registered voters to qualify the initiative.
Right.
So, right now, we need to talk about some things we know. We know that the California State Senate has 40 members.
Correct.
We know that the California State Assembly has 80 members.
Right.
We know that in the state of California, those membership numbers have been the same since 1879. most people are aware that that was around, 479 some thousand people in 1879, and today we're at close to 40 million. So one particular movement says that the state has allowed our vote to become diluted. But we have to realize that the California Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Clause A, Subclause 1 states the Senate has a membership of 40 senators elected for 4-year terms, 20 to begin every 2 years. That's written. That's the actual language in our Constitution. Now, this is the 1879 and current California State Constitution. It also says in Subclause 2, the Assembly has a membership of 80 members to be elected to 2-year terms. These are numbers held fast in our Constitution. The thing that gets to me is when we discuss this, we're not completely honest in letting people know that the legislators, or the governors haven't artificially held our representation at these 40 senator and 80 assembly people levels.
Right.
That it's right here in the Constitution. It's been that way since 1879.
And doesn't Article 1, Section 3, Clause A tell us that we have the ability to do that?
So Article 1, excuse the paper rattling, I'm opening the Constitution. The copy I have is printed by the California State Legislature. It is the most recent copy you can get, 2018 edition. So Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 3, states the people have the right to instruct their representatives, petition government for redress of grievances, and assemble freely to consult for the common good. So, we have a podcast, but technically tonight we're consulting for the common good.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
We're sharing these views with everybody. And that section and clauses are no less important than the legislative sections that I've just read to you. Article 4, Section 2, Clause A, Subclause 1, and Subclause 2. They hold as much weight as these other articles. So we have to take into consideration some our right to petition for the redress of grievance. So how do we do that? It's said that we call our legislatures some 1,000 times, and our legislators don't do anything for us.
Nope.
It's said that we've called the executive branch, and the executive branch blew us off.
Yep, the day we were supposed to have a meeting with him, he blew us off.
So then our next step was what?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the next step was what? To file in court?
Yes, a lawsuit for...
But what court? Did we ask the state court to intervene?
No.
And to look at this?
Right to federal court.
Okay, so they go to federal court. Why do they go to federal court? Because they think the federal government is going to say, yeah, let's fix this. When the numbers are set in our Constitution, and when we have the means under Article 2, Section 8, Clause B, to fix it, it just seems to me like it's we're leaving one step out.
I think you're right.
So we're actually leaving a few steps out where we don't ask the state court to intervene, and we don't utilize the other avenues at our disposal. We have that avenue. to propose an initiative to change the Constitution.
Right.
We have the way to ask for this to be done, with multiple ways for a constitutional amendment to take place that could correct representation long ago.
Right. Would you say that the Assembly and the Senate, each needing 2/3 vote to make a constitutional amendment, would be not in their interest for that many people to get on the same page? They seem to be happy with the status quo.
Well, we know they're not going to want to dilute their power.
Correct.
Every one of them spends millions of dollars to get where they are, and that's because they can grow their net worth by being there.
That's right.
But we have to realize that of the 80 Assembly members, 54 of them would have to agree that we have a representation problem, that we need more Assembly members or more senators. Okay? And then 28 of the 40 senators would have to agree with them that we need more senators or more Assembly members.
Right.
So I don't really see, even if we made 4,000 phone calls, if we bug these men and women every day, garnering the kind of support of 54 members and 28 members to propose a constitutional amendment for us to vote on. Because they can propose the amendments, but we still have to vote on those.
This is true.
Now, I don't understand why we haven't addressed, from a Citizens for Fair Representation standpoint, every option at our disposal. Okay, I'm pretty vocal about federal court being the wrong jurisdiction for a representation lawsuit against the state of California because of the things that I've already discussed tonight.
Right.
Because the membership of the Senate and the membership of the Assembly is set in our Constitution, and no judge can say, well, that's unconstitutional because you should have more, in my opinion. So how are they going to rule on that? How is it going to come out at appeal? While it may be a serious question and a serious issue, how can the courts tell anyone that it's wrong because it's right here?
Yeah, it's stated in black and white. And what court has the right to amend the Constitution?
None.
That's right.
So in essence, what these men are doing in the Citizens for Fair Representation lawsuit, which are mostly stated Jefferson individuals, members of the State of Jefferson movement that are pretty engaged in that movement, that are public figures in that movement. What are they doing by insisting that this federal case is the way to go, and that this judge is going to therefore force the state of California to come to the table and negotiate? Well, they're kind of being hypocritical at the same time when they're saying, well, on the Second Amendment issues, the courts don't have the right to make these decisions, right?
Right.
On all these other issues, that the courts don't have the power to legislate, that the courts just have the right to interpret. So how is the lawsuit in state court or federal court, regardless of jurisdictional issues, in either court? How are the courts going to leverage, as has been said in the past, a meeting of the minds, so to speak,
Right.
to allow this to happen? Well, I just don't see it. But let's not talk about it. Let's not discuss it openly. Let's just insinuate people are morons and their ideas are shady, that they must be liberals or Democrat plants or have some party affiliation. it's.
I know you have a real good idea, though, for a proposed ballot initiative to change the Constitution, the California Constitution, that is.
Well, I actually have two ideas because we have to change both subsections.
That's right.
Of Article 4, Section 2, Clause A. That'd be subsections 1 and 2. And we know that Article 2, Section 8, Clause D, we can't address more than one subject in an initiative member. Says an initiative measure embracing more than one subject may not be submitted to the electors or have any effect. So when I discuss this with people, I'm pretty open about, this is a dual step process. We have to change the Senate in the state of California and the Assembly in the state of California. We can't increase representation in only one body because both houses are held too low.
Right.
Both houses are not representative of the people or the several counties. So, I have typed up what I would propose, and the reason I propose these things is representation is necessary for a Republican form of government to survive, and for we the people to maintain our control. We have to have that representation.
That's right.
The reason the state of California is in the shape it's in now is because we do not. I don't dispute that our vote doesn't count as it should. I don't dispute that we have lack of representation. I'm very vocal with everyone I speak to about how we must increase this and how through the power of initiative we the people can have our voice back. My proposal to change the California Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Clause A, Subclause 1, that states the Senate has a membership of 40 senators elected for 4-year terms, 20 to begin every 2 years. I propose changing that to the Senate shall consist of 2 members from each county elected to a term of 4 years. Each county will elect 1 senator every 2 years, so as half the Senate is re-elected each biannual election cycle. If approved, 1 senator shall be elected by each county at the next biannual statewide election, and the second group being elected 2 years after the first biannual statewide election. Well, we have 58 counties in California. That would give us 116 senators. So we would dramatically grow that house. Mm-hmm. Each county would then have 2 senators instead of 11 counties today being represented by 1 senator.
Right.
My proposal would bring this in line with the federal model. Period. If each county had 2 senators, it would work the same as it works in the United States Senate.
Right.
On a smaller scale, of course.
Right. I see what you're saying, though.
So I think 116 members Senate is a lot better for the people, mm-hmm. more representative of the people, and it gives each county the same voice.
Right.
If we look at larger counties, smaller counties, the Senate is
it's equal. It's more
the government of the county's voice. Now, we still elect these members by popular election.
Right.
I'm not proposing 4 constitutional amendments here. That would be crazy. I think 2 is a big undertaking.
Right.
as far as the Article 4, Section 2, Clause A, Subclause 2 of the California State Constitution, it states the Assembly has a membership of 80 members to be elected to 2-year terms. I propose changing that as follows. After the 2020 federal census and the subsequent redistricting, the Assembly shall consist of one Assembly member per 80,000 persons until the number of representatives shall amount to 600, after which the proportion shall be regulated by the legislature so that there shall be an increase in proportion by 10,000 persons every subsequent 100 Assembly members. And every subsequent reapportion must not take place until reaching the threshold of the next 100 Assembly members respectively. Each county shall be entitled to at least one Assembly member regardless of population, and all apportionment adjustments shall be done following a federal census. If population shall decrease, no adjustment shall be necessary to the member threshold required for the next mandated increase of 10,000 persons. Nevertheless, the representation ratio shall remain in effect until such time as reapportionment is mandated. Assembly members shall be elected to 2-year terms, and the entire Assembly will be elected every 2 years. So my idea is I'm professing on this show and on other speaking engagements I do with people that we as a federal government get to some type of articles of the first proportionment for our representation in the House of Representatives. I'm proposing the same thing as I've been very vocal about, continuing that articles of the first pattern in the House of Representatives on a federal level, and continuing that pattern here in this proposed amendment on a state level.
Right.
It gives us as voters a firm grasp on when the next apportionment is mandated to come and what the representation level will be at that point. So it's never a question. Like, it's never a question now. We know that we'll have 80 Assembly members, but I'm proposing increasing that right now to 600.
Yeah, that's a pretty big jump, but that's needed. It's necessary.
Well, we're due that, I think.
Oh, I agree. We are due that.
We needed increases a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But what past generations have failed to do, or what the Senate and Assembly have failed to do, we can't go back and ask those folks to fix it. We have to fix it ourselves.
Exactly. Right.
Right?
Yep, it's up to us.
Now, some people will say that this takes a lot of money, that this can't be done, that I'm smoking good stuff by even suggesting that we do this. And I think that's disingenuous. I think that it's just a personal attack. That if we truly wanted representation increases, that we would have already thought about these things. I mean, I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the world, but I can read our state constitution.
Right. You do a pretty good job of it, I would say.
I know that we need 997,139 signatures. I know that some time ago the San Francisco Examiner had an article about how proposing ballot initiatives is becoming increasingly expensive, that it's a millionaire's game. Other people have insinuated on the same thing on their radio shows, that it's a rich man's game, a millionaire's game. We're not all millionaires, but we have the same rights as the next guy.
That's right.
We can gather signatures for free. Nothing says you have to pay anyone to gather signatures. I don't know that that if I wasn't the only one discussing these things, and I don't know if other people didn't come on board, instead of ridiculing me personally, insinuating that I'm a moron of the highest order, actually discussing these things with me, and actually wanting to improve representation, how we couldn't all come together as neutral parties, as the state of Jefferson, as New California, as every conservative group in the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
Gun owners groups. We just spoke with Sam Paredes, Gun Owners of California.
Right.
I would assume that they would be behind this, that Election Integrity Project would be behind this, that everyone we've interviewed on this podcast would be for this, that if we would just all come together, I don't see it being that expensive of a proposition. I'm not asking for anybody's money to do this. People will donate what they want. We're not even to that point yet.
Right. It's just a proposed idea at this point.
It's my idea.
Yeah, it's a very good idea.
I'm just putting it out there to get people talking.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Well, some people would disagree.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
I don't know where to go from there, but we have a young lady in Stanislaus County that's got a meeting coming up. We're going to be talking about this very issue, and I'll be there discussing this at that meeting on the 18th in Oakdale.
Where is that exactly going to be at, John?
Let's have a Cafe Bravo in Oakdale.
Okay.
I don't know the exact address, but we can put a link to the address in the show notes.
There you go. Yeah, and then we can always you can always look that up on your GPS. Just type in Cafe Bravo, and it'll give you the address and directions.
They're in Oakdale, California.
Yeah.
But I'll discuss this with anybody that wants to talk about it. I'm not trying to hide what I'm proposing. I'm not trying to financially spearhead this thing. I understand I don't have the time or the money. I'm running multiple businesses. I'm on the road driving truck quite a bit of my life to pay my bills, to support my habits, and this is something that's going to take all of us, a large group, to make happen.
Yep.
People in Southern California are interested in this. People in Northern California are interested in this. People in Central California are interested in this. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that while some would like a state split to happen, you still need that 54 assembly members and 28 senators to approve it.
Right.
If we increase the assembly to 600 and we increase the Senate to 116, those areas would be better represented right away. And I hope people would understand that I'm not the bad guy that I'm made out to be on other radio shows, that I'm not the bad guy I'm made out to be on all these Facebook pages because I question the status quo, because I bring up things that challenge the authority of leadership figures.
Right.
I bring these things up because it's
legitimate.
It's from the rules we play by.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making anything up.
No, it's all right there in black and white.
And you can go on Amazon or wherever you buy books. California Constitution, 2018 edition, the California Legislature. They sell it. It's like $10. It's right there. And anyone can read it. And form your own opinions. And we can discuss those with the documents in front of us. I believe that's what our founders wanted us to do.
I agree. And I think with that, we'll sign off. And thank you, John, for all your input and all your work that you've done on that. And hopefully everybody out there listening will be able to join us out at Cafe Bravo on Tuesday, June 18th. Come on out and see what John has to say. And we'll also be, most likely we're going to be recording our next podcast from there. So if you have questions, come on down and we will answer your question on air.
Well, and that's 6:30 p.m.
6:30. Okay, thanks.
And if you're not going to be able to come and you have a question, we have a phone number. I'm sure Matthew will add that in the intro. And you can always get us on Facebook at Jefferson Liberty Radio, or on our website, jeffersonlibertyradio.com. Leave your questions for us there. Leave us a review on your podcast player of choice. Those reviews really do help us out, and we appreciate you listening.
Thank you again, John.
Thank you.
Signing off.